I'll never forget the moment I realized my mother-in-law had stolen everything. I was standing in my father-in-law's study, holding a stack of his old letters, my hands trembling so badly I almost dropped them. My husband Marcus had just served me with a postnuptial agreement that morning, cutting me out of his $2.3 million inheritance because his mother convinced him I was a gold digger. I'd spent 3 years loving this man, building a life with him, only to be treated like a criminal in my own home. Patricia, my monster-in-law, had won. Or so she thought. Because those letters I just found, they proved she was the real gold digger. And they were about to change everything. This is the story of how I got every penny back and destroyed her in the process. When I married Marcus 3 years ago, I thought I'd finally found my person. He was kind, funny, successful in his own right as a software engineer. We met at a coffee shop where I was working part-time while finishing my nursing degree. I came from a working-class family. My dad was a mechanic, my mom a teacher. We didn't have money, but we had love. Marcus's family was different. His father, Richard, had built a commercial real estate empire worth millions. But Richard was warm to me from the start. He pulled me aside at our engagement party and said, "You're good for my son. You keep him grounded." I loved Richard, like my own father. His mother, Patricia, though? She smiled to my face and sharpened knives behind my back from day one. At our wedding, she wore white. When I got pregnant and miscarried 6 months into our marriage, she told Marcus, "Maybe it's for the best. You don't know if it was even yours." I heard her say it through the hospital room door. Marcus defended me that time. Back then, he still chose me. Everything changed when Richard died suddenly of a heart attack last October. He was only 63. The grief nearly broke Marcus. And Patricia? She moved in immediately. To help, she said. She took over Richard's old study, started going through his papers, making arrangements. The will reading was 2 weeks after the funeral. Richard had left everything to Marcus: the real estate portfolio, the investment accounts, the family home in Connecticut, the beach house in Cape Cod. The lawyer said the estate was valued at $2.3 million after taxes. Marcus was devastated, but also overwhelmed. He didn't know anything about managing properties or investments. That's when Patricia started her campaign. It began subtly, little comments at dinner. "Well, at least now you two don't have to worry about money. Although I suppose that was always the plan, wasn't it?" She'd look at me when she said it. Then she got more aggressive. She'd pull Marcus aside and I'd hear fragments. Richard told me he was worried about her spending. I saw the credit card bills. She quit her nursing job awfully fast once you got the inheritance. None of it was true. I'd quit my job because Marcus and I had decided I'd go back to school for my nurse practitioner license. We'd made that decision together, before Richard even died. But Patricia twisted everything. She started leaving printouts of articles on our kitchen counter. 10 signs your spouse married you for money, and how gold diggers target grieving widowers. That last one made me laugh bitterly. Marcus wasn't a widower, he was a son, but the psychological warfare was working. Marcus became distant, cold. He started questioning every purchase I made. When I bought groceries, he'd check the receipt. When I got my hair done, something I'd done every 6 weeks for years, he asked if it was really necessary right now. The final blow came 4 months after Richard's death. Marcus sat me down at our kitchen table, Patricia hovering in the doorway like a vulture. He slid papers across to me. "I need you to sign this," he said. His voice was flat, dead. It was a postnuptial agreement. I'd get nothing from the inheritance. If we divorced, I'd leave with only what I'd brought into the marriage, which was basically my used Honda Civic and my student loan debt. "Marcus, what is this?" My voice cracked. "It's protection," Patricia answered for him, "for the family assets." I looked at my husband, the man I'd loved, who'd held me through my miscarriage, who'd promised me forever. "You really think I married you for money?" He wouldn't meet my eyes. "Just sign it." I signed. What choice did I have? The next day, Marcus announced he was transferring the entire inheritance into a trust with his mother as the trustee. "Just until I figure out how to manage it," he said. But I knew. Patricia had won. She'd isolated me, convinced him I was the enemy, and taken control of everything. She even moved into the guest house on the Connecticut property. To help Marcus manage everything, she claimed. Really, it was to monitor me, to make sure I didn't get a single penny of her money. I'd never felt so alone, so humiliated, so powerless. I started packing up Richard's belongings that week. Patricia had demanded it. She wanted his study cleared out so she could use it as her office for managing the estate. The cruelty of it made me sick, but I did it. I folded his sweaters, packed his books, cried into his old cardigan that still smelled like his cologne. That's when everything changed. I was taking books off Richard's shelf when I noticed something odd. One section of the bookcase seemed slightly off, like it wasn't flush with the wall. Hidden inside was a mahogany box, about the size of a shoebox, locked with a small brass padlock. My heart was racing. I looked around like I was doing something wrong, even though I was alone. I found a letter opener in Richard's desk and jimmied the lock. It broke easily. It was old. Inside were letters, dozens of them, tied with a faded blue ribbon. I pulled one out at random. The handwriting was feminine, looping, and dramatic. It was dated March 1998. My darling Richard, it began. I can't stop thinking about our afternoon together. Thomas suspects nothing, thank God. He's so wrapped up in his pathetic little job that he doesn't notice I'm gone for hours. But you see me, you know what I need. I married the wrong man, Richard. I should have been yours. Our child should have been raised with your name, your wealth, your life. Instead, I'm stuck in this tiny house with a man who will never amount to anything. You promised you'd take care of us. You promised. It was signed P. Patricia. My hand started shaking. I grabbed another letter, then another. The story unfolded like a nightmare. Patricia had been having an affair with Richard in the late 1990s. She'd been married to Thomas, Marcus's legal father, a man who died when Marcus was 10. I'd never met him. Marcus rarely talked about him except to say he'd been a good man, but they'd always struggled financially. But these letters revealed the truth. Patricia had gotten pregnant with Marcus while having an affair with Richard. Richard was Marcus's biological father. She'd manipulated Richard for decades. The letters showed it all. Richard had paid for Marcus's private school, Marcus's college, the down payment on Marcus's first apartment. Every major expense in Marcus's life had been secretly funded by Richard, with Patricia constantly demanding more. You owe us this, she'd written in 2003. He's your son, even if no one can know it. I gave up everything to keep your reputation intact. The least you can do is pay. The extortion went on for 25 years. But here's what made my blood run cold. I found another document in the box, a will. Richard's will. But it wasn't the one we'd heard at the lawyer's office. This one was dated February 14th, 2 weeks before Richard died. It was handwritten, signed, and witnessed by Richard's accountant and his housekeeper. It read, I leave my entire estate to my son Marcus Whitmore and his wife equally, as joint tenants. I do this specifically to protect Marcus from his mother Patricia, who has manipulated and extorted me for 25 years. I hope my son never learns the truth about his parentage, but if he does, I want him to know I loved him. And I want his wife to have the resources to protect him from his mother's greed. There was more. A notarized letter from Richard to his lawyer, dated the same day, instructing him to execute this will and specifically stating that any earlier wills were null and void. But we'd never seen this will. The one read at the lawyer's office was dated 2019, 6 years earlier. Patricia had hidden the real will and produced the old one. She'd literally stolen Marcus's inheritance, our inheritance. I sat on the floor of that study for an hour, reading every letter, every document, crying and shaking and feeling like I might throw up. Patricia hadn't just poisoned Marcus against me. She'd been poisoning Richard's whole life. She was a parasite, a con artist, a thief. And now I was going to destroy her. I didn't tell Marcus right away. As much as it killed me, I knew I had to be smart about this. First, I photographed everything. Every letter, every page of the will, every document. I uploaded them to a secure cloud drive. Then I carefully put everything back in the box exactly as I'd found it, and hid it in my car. The next day, I went to see Richard's lawyer, the one who'd read the 2019 will. I walked into his office with the box and dumped it on his desk. I need to know if this is legitimate, I said. He went pale as he read through it, especially the letter addressed to him. Where did you find this? Hidden in Richard's study, the study Patricia insisted I clear out this week. He put his head in his hands. She told me Richard's study had been cleaned out months ago. She said there were no other documents. She lied. He verified everything that afternoon. The will was legitimate, properly witnessed, properly executed, and it superseded the 2019 will. Richard had sent his lawyer a letter instructing him to update the estate files, but that letter had apparently, quote, gone missing. Patricia had intercepted it. "This changes everything," the lawyer said. "This will stands. You and Marcus are the rightful heirs, 50-50. Patricia has no legal claim to anything. In fact, if she's been accessing the trust funds, she's committed fraud." I smiled for the first time in months. "How do we do this?" We scheduled a family meeting for the following Saturday. The lawyer would be there. Patricia, Marcus, and Patricia's brother Dennis, who I'd insisted on inviting as a witness. I told Marcus it was just to sort out some estate paperwork. He barely looked up from his laptop. That week was the longest of my life. I had to pretend everything was normal. Smile at Patricia when she made her little digs. Watch Marcus treat me like I was invisible. But I knew I was about to burn her entire world down. Saturday came. We gathered in the living room of the Connecticut house. Patricia sat in Richard's old armchair like a queen on a throne. Marcus sat next to her, looking exhausted. Dennis sat awkwardly on the couch. The lawyer, Mr. Chen, sat across from me with his briefcase. "Thank you all for coming," Mr. Chen began. "We've discovered some new information regarding Richard's estate that requires immediate attention." Patricia's smile was condescending. "I'm sure whatever it is, we can handle it. Marcus and I have everything under control." "Actually, Mrs. Whitmore, you don't." Mr. Chen pulled out the documents. "We've found Richard's true last will and testament, dated February 14th, 2 weeks before his death. It supersedes the 2019 will that was previously executed." Patricia's face didn't change, but I saw her fingers tighten on the armrest. Marcus leaned forward. "What are you talking about? What other will?" Mr. Chen slid the document across to Marcus. "Your father left everything to you and your wife equally. He was quite specific about his reasoning." I watched Marcus read it, watched his face change as he got to the part about protecting Marcus from his mother's greed. "I don't understand," Marcus said slowly. "Why would he say that about Mom?" This was my moment. I pulled out the letters, the entire stack. I set them on the coffee table. "Because your mother has been extorting your father for 25 years, I said quietly. "These are love letters between Patricia and Richard. They had an affair while she was married to Thomas. Richard is your biological father, Marcus, and she's been blackmailing him about it since before you were born." The room exploded. Marcus grabbed the letters, reading them with shaking hands. Patricia lunged for them, but Dennis, God bless him, blocked her. "You had no right," Patricia started. "I had every right. I cut her off. You hid his real will. You stole from your own son. You manipulated him into cutting me out of an inheritance that was meant for both of us. You're a liar and a thief." Marcus looked up from the letters. His face was white. "Mom, is this true? Is Richard my real father?" Patricia's mask finally cracked. "Marcus, sweetheart, you have to understand. Is it true?" "Yes." Her voice was small. "But I did it for you. Everything I did was for you." "You called my wife a gold digger," Marcus said, his voice shaking. "You made me doubt her. You made me treat her like garbage, when all along you were the one manipulating everyone for money. I was protecting you." "You were protecting yourself." He stood up, the letters scattering. "How much? How much did you take from him over the years?" Mr. Chen cleared his throat. "According to the documents Mrs. Whitmore found, along with Richard's private financial records, approximately $1.7 million over 25 years. School tuition, housing, cars, and direct payments to Patricia herself." Dennis whistled low. He looked at his sister like he'd never seen her before. Marcus turned to me, his eyes were full of tears. "You knew about this. How long have you known?" "I found it 5 days ago," I said. "I didn't tell you because I needed to verify it was real. I needed to protect you." "Protect me? From my own mother?" "Yes." He looked at Patricia. "Get out!" "Marcus, get out of this house. Now, you have 1 week to vacate the guest house. Mr. Chen will be handling the estate transfer. You don't get a penny. And if you've been taking money from the trust you manipulated me into creating, we'll be pressing charges." Patricia's face went red, then white. "You ungrateful, I gave you everything." "You gave me lies," Marcus roared. "Get out." Dennis stood up and took his sister's arm. "Come on, Pat, let's go." She laughed, but not before shooting me a look of pure hatred. I didn't care. I'd won. The legal aftermath took 3 months. Mr. Chen discovered that Patricia had been paying herself a, quote, trustee management fee of $5,000 a month from Marcus's inheritance. She'd taken $20,000 in the 4 months she'd controlled the trust. We sued her. She settled to avoid criminal charges, agreeing to repay every penny plus interest. The estate was officially transferred to Marcus and me as equal beneficiaries, just as Richard had wanted. The Connecticut house, the Cape Cod Beach house, the investment portfolio, all of it, split 50-50 between us. Patricia moved to a small apartment 2 hours away. Marcus has spoken to her exactly twice in the past year, both times to tell her she's not welcome at family events. But the real aftermath was our marriage. Marcus was devastated. His entire understanding of his family, his identity had been shattered. He'd treated me horribly based on his mother's lies, and he knew it. We went to therapy, a lot of therapy. There were nights I wasn't sure we'd make it, nights I wasn't sure I wanted to make it. But slowly, we rebuilt. Marcus did the work. He apologized, not just once but continuously. He showed me through actions, not words, that he chose me. He set up the estate in an irrevocable trust that Patricia could never touch. He cut her off financially and emotionally. It took time, but we got there. Last month, we moved into the Cape Cod house. We sold the Connecticut property. Too many bad memories. I went back to school and just finished my nurse practitioner license. Marcus started a foundation in Richard's name to help kids from low-income families go to college. The irony isn't lost on us. Richard funded Marcus's education secretly for years. Now Marcus is doing it openly for others. As for Patricia, last I heard she's working part-time at a department store. She sends Marcus birthday cards that he throws away unopened. She's tried to reach out to me twice, once to apologize, once to ask for money. I blocked her number both times. People ask me if I feel bad about what happened to her, if I regret exposing her. I don't. She called me a gold digger. She tried to steal my husband's inheritance and destroy my marriage. She manipulated everyone around her for decades. Turns out she'd been mining my husband's family for 25 years. At least I married for love.